This is my home. Punta Cana, Dominican Republic, a place I love and I'm raising my family. It's one of the most idyllic tourist destinations in the world, with millions of people flocking here every single year. And yet, it was just ranked the third worst tourist destination in the world by a recent article. But here's the key. It's not the beaches, it's not the airport, it's not the food, it's none of that. It boils down to one complaint, and when I boil it down even more, it may even be just one resort. Crazy, right? But this is a resort that I've been to, I've had friends stay at, and I've seen tons of reviews that are citing the exact same complaint. And it might be dragging the entire brand of Punta Cana down with it. Let's dive in. So a magazine called Radical Storage released its Paris Syndrome report for 2025. And what they did was they took 97,000 plus reviews and analyzed them across 100 of the top destinations in the world. And Punta Cana ranked third worst globally, behind Cancun and Antalya. I don't even know where Antalya is, but that was number 2. So what they did in analyzing all of these reviews was pick out keywords and key phrases to determine where the most negative reviews were. And they actually compared those to 2022 when they did a similar report. Now, overall, Punta Cana had 11% of their reviews citing some sort of negative experience. And I'll talk about that in just a second. But back in 2022, one of the drivers of the negative experiences then, even though Punta Cana wasn't third worst globally, it was much lower than that. One of the main drivers then was feeling scammed, which if you've ever been down here, especially over the last 10, 15 years, you know, people that are gringo pricing you, charging you more, trying to sell you stuff on the beach or whatever. That's the scam mentality. Or even on the higher end, getting you into a room and trying to sell you a timeshare or trying to sell you some sort of travel club membership. Those were the feelings of scam. Now in 2025, the scam thing went away. Punta Cana wasn't even ranked anywhere near the top as far as feeling scammed. But here's where they were ranked very low. It was around the concept of rudeness. Now listen, if you follow me, you know I've talked about if I have one complaint about the Dominican Republic, it can be the customer service. So rudeness doesn't shock me, and I think it's a great gut punch for the whole area to say, man, we've got to level this up. In fact, recently I spoke with Kayla Rodriguez, who's known as the Adrenaline Traveler on Instagram. She's a massive travel influencer here in the Dominican Republic, and she actually brought this up. I'm going to show you real quick.
Because the excuse sometimes from some of the leadership in this other accommodations is, oh, well, Americans like it. Americans like how casual Dominicans are and how informal they are. It is true, I have seen it with my own eyes. But they like the, you know, the island vibe, the flirtatious vibe of some of these employees.
Ah, sure.
Some of Americans come for that,
yeah,
that it is true.
That's fair. Yeah.
But I would like to think that is not the norm or the standard that we can offer to people that come from other countries.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want Dominican Republic to be recognized in other countries because of how flirtatious our employees are, you know? I will hope that they are recognized mostly because of the great level of service that they can give. No matter how their personal is going back at home, I want them to be recognized because they're always willing to provide a great service.
Something that she mentioned was how a lot of resorts believe that the playfulness or like that island time vibe, or even flirting, the staff flirting with guests, is desirable for Americans. And that's where I think the Dominican Republic needs to come into the 21st century and understand that's not it, number one. And number two, resorts here need to realize that DR is becoming more of a luxury destination than a budget travel destination, and their service needs to morph with that brand of client. Not only was rudeness cited as the biggest driver of DR being the third worst tourist destination on this report, but if you ranked all of these tourist destinations by simply rudeness, Punta Cana ranked number 1, worst in the world for that particular complaint. Crazy, right? Now here's something interesting I saw in the data. 2 key points, really. Number 1, Punta Cana had 11% negative reviews, which means almost 90% thought it was a positive experience coming here to the Dominican Republic. So this whole thing of like, oh my God, it's failing, it's not going well, I told you, Punta Cana's going down. BS. Punta Cana is doing just fine, and we're gonna isolate this down to a specific subset that's driving the negativity. But more than that, I invite you to go and visit some of the places that were ranked in the top 10, meaning the least negative comments. You ready for them? You wanna know where you gotta go? The place with the least negative comments, Guangzhou, China. Go ahead, go have fun there. In fact, 4 of the places in the top 10 are in China, but maybe you don't want to go to China. Instead, go to some of the other top 10 places. Oman, Lithuania, Estonia, Saudi Arabia. Go ahead. You enjoy your vacation. Now, there were some interesting spots on there. Santiago, Chile, Lima, Peru, which I just got back from Lima. It's a great city. It is nice. It's beautiful, it's fun, there's great food there. But am I going to compare that to an experience in the Caribbean, right over here? now. By the way, some people when they watch my video think that this is some sort of background screen, but it's not. I'll prove it. Hold on. Watch this. It's real. But anyway, that's my point. Like, this report doesn't say Punta Cana is done. It's just revealing for Punta Cana something it needs to improve upon. I'll give you a few other data points on this before I go to number 2. Orlando was one of the top spots in the world in 2022 and 2025 for being disappointed, travelers being disappointed coming there. Number 1 in 2025 was the city of Toronto, the most disappointing place based on this Paris Syndrome report for 2025. The city most cited as simply being quote unquote bad, Beijing, China. It's all over the map. Now, number 2 is where the negative reviews mostly come from. Doing this analysis and doing this breakdown, can you guess the type of resorts that got the most negative reviews? Kenya? It's not in Kenya, but can you? I'll wait. Here they are. Low-cost budget resorts. All right, I'm gonna get full-on hoity-toity on you right now. The higher end the traveler, the less they complain. The more that somebody feels stretched by the cost of a trip, the more bitchy they are. The less educated, the lower on the socioeconomic scale, the more they expect from a place like the Dominican Republic. And here's what I mean. I've seen so many travelers come here that you can tell I just rolled out of somewhere in the bayou. And they've got this thought that a $3 tip to a Dominican resident is gonna pay for their college education, their mortgage, their food for the month, and take care of 6 years worth of diapers for their kids or whatever. Some of you may disagree, but my point simply is the lower end the traveler, the lower budget the traveler, the more likely they are to expect something for their money. I see this all the time in the luxury real estate space. People that are willing to stroke a check for $5 grand a month, they just figure it out. They don't bitch, they don't whine, they know that their time is more valuable than money. But people that have to stroke a $500 check a month for rent, I had these renters, man, as a landlord of the United States, biggest pains in the ass. And you're seeing that flesh out in this data. Again, you can blame me for being too high society or looking down my nose. Don't give a shit. You think what you think, I know what I know. The lowest cost resorts had the most rude experiences. So now we're looking at if you're somebody that can travel on a little bit of a mid-tier to higher tier budget and you're not looking for reasons to be offended or annoyed, they're all fine. All right, so what is the Paris Syndrome exactly? Paris Syndrome is a psychological distress when reality doesn't meet the Instagram expectation. The idea is in Paris, there's so many people that have reported like, oh my God, the Eiffel Tower, Paris, Champs-Élysées, all these beautiful things. And they get there and it's like, wasn't quite what I expected. That's the Paris Syndrome effect. Punta Cana is marketed like a dream. Look at me, look where I am. It's a dream, and it is a dream. I love living here. I love visiting here. But then again, when you go to the low-cost resort, you got a plastic cup with watered down alcohol and crappy food, and it just doesn't meet the beautiful expectations. You know what the best example of this is? I'll admit, for me, the first few times I came here 15 years ago when I met my wife. You know the whole like dinner on a beach thing? You get to the resort and they show this like, oh, look, we can have dinner on the beach, the table, and they show this beautiful couple eating and somebody coming out with beautiful drinks. Do you ever actually do it? It sucks. The wind is blowing, there's sand in your face, you can't hear the waiter, you're barely able to talk because it's so crazy on the beach. It's a great photo moment, but it's just not real, and that is the Paris effect. So either way, Paris isn't a bad place, none of these are a bad place. It simply means there's a gap between expectation and reality. All right, so let's break this down further. I said that there is a resort that I believe is the pinnacle of what's dragging down the brand of Punta Cana, and I've had experience at this resort. So I went and found comments to just see, is there a correlation between that resort and the comments around rudeness, and boy, it was crazy to see that, yeah, this resort has the most reviews for rudeness. Let me share some. This reviewer said on TripAdvisor, staff are extremely rude. This person said rude staff, pushy locals. This one said actively rude and unhelpful staff, and there are more and more. And don't get me wrong, resorts like Riu, Catalonia, low-budget resorts also have the same complaint. But the resort I'm gonna tell you about in a second, keep teasing you, that's the one that had all of these comments. So as I saw all of these reviews popped up, I then went and looked at, okay, give me the 30 biggest resorts in Punta Cana, and I wanna see where this particular resort ranks, just to see if what I thought was real. So out of 30 resorts, this resort ranked number 28 on TripAdvisor. The resort, you ready for it? Drum roll. The Royalton Punta Cana Autograph Collection. Look, I've been to this resort. It is gorgeous. beautifully positioned on the beach, really well done, gorgeous lobby, the whole nine. But the experience I had there, the experience friends that I've had stay there, and even the experience that made the news recently all speak to the same exact thing. The staff is just rude. Whoever's leading that resort, which I believe is a Marriott property, needs to go in and retrain the staff on what it is to provide great customer service. Because if they do, man, that resort can take off. So this isn't like, don't go there, it sucks. This is a call to action for that resort, along with others, to just level up your game. Because it pains me to see any resort reviewed negatively in a place that I've fallen in love with living here. There was another review on this resort that said, the staff were grumpy and downright rude. We were mocked in the gift shop. That feels right to me. Here, let me explain my story. But before I do, I want to thank Colchones Naco for sponsoring this video. Colchones Naco is a premier mattress provider manufactured right here in the Dominican Republic, and they sell their own Naco Royal line along with Sealy, Serta, Simmons. My house is stocked with Colchones Naco mattresses. They have stores in Santiago, Punta Cana, and Santo Domingo. And you want to talk about great customer service. When I find a company that has it, I latch on, and they are one of them. So when we discussed a potential brand partnership, I was all in because I can attest for their quality. Our entire bedroom set is from them, actually. So if you're buying down here, if you're looking to furnish an apartment or whatever, go to Colchones Naco, give them code Gruber 2025, and you'll get 2 free pillows with your mattress purchase. Dominican-based company, mission-focused, great customer service, great product. You won't be disappointed. Friends of ours came down and stayed at the Royalton, I don't know, a year ago or so, whenever it was. And they were, when we arrived, telling us how, like, man, this place just kind of sucks. And these are like well-off folks who don't want to complain, right? Those people I was telling you about, but they're like, it's hard not to complain here. When I got to the resort, I'm looking around like, this place is gorgeous. What are the complaints? What is it? It's like, you know, you're bringing your American expectation to the Dominican Republic. Are you those people thinking that your dollar's gonna pay for college tuition? But then we experienced it. Rude, indifferent staff. And I'll tell you this story as the culmination of it. When we went in, we did a day pass, and me and my family, my wife, my 2 boys who were 8 and 5 at the time, put on a bracelet that they give you at the front door. And when you leave, you need to go to the front desk, they need to cut off your bracelet, take it, and then in exchange give you back your passport. My 5-year-old took his off somehow. I don't know how he took it off. When we got to the front desk, we said, hey, we have our little guy took theirs off. And they were like, well, that's gonna be $30 then. I think it was $30, whatever. They were charging us. We're like, for what? Well, without the bracelet, we don't know that he already has it and he's gonna return for free and not pay. And we're like, he's 5. You really believe that he's gonna come back by himself and come on the resort and get a free ride for the day? You know, whatever we paid for the day pass, it was very little for him because of his age. Like, you think we need to save that money? Like, let's think about this. You're a multi-million dollar resort and you're gonna shake us down because a 5-year-old took his bracelet off. You gotta be kidding me. That is the kind of service that you provide to somebody that's scamming you. So when you come with that energy, you're trying to get one over on me, no bueno. All right, not to pile on the Royalton, but you wanna talk about the epitome of rudeness? How about if you got sick at the resort and rather than help you, they force you to call 911 and then ask you to sign an NDA? That happened right here. This Canadian couple came down here, got sick, which happens, and were in their room trying to get help, but the resort staff just was indifferent to them. They did the right thing and called 911, and within 30 minutes, they had an IV in the arm of the gentleman that was sick and gave him some meds and he was good, thank God. But that person not only experienced rudeness from the staff, but they even had experiences that weren't reported that were even worse. I'm gonna keep that private because it was shared with me privately, but let me just tell you, you would not believe the level of treatment that these people got. Royalton needs to do better. And honestly, I hope they do. I hope this video is for them, if they see it, to say, hey, we gotta improve our service. We're getting a bad rap here. We wanna do better. What I hope they don't do is have me run off the road somewhere in the middle of the Dominican Republic. We'll see. But it's not, again, I wanna be clear, I'm not against them. I'm not saying, oh, don't stay there, they're awful. I'm just saying, hey, this place, I've had experiences, I've had friends have experiences, and then this whole NDA thing, like, come on, beautiful spot. It's a Marriott property. Just put a little time and energy into training the staff. Pay them a little more if you need to, whatever, but make it a better experience and it lifts all ships in the area. Contrast that with my experience at the Hyatt Ziva. Man, they bent over backwards to make sure that everything was done perfectly for us. It didn't matter if there was cost to them or not. Extra something, no problem. Food to your room, no problem. Whatever you wanted, they did. They understood that people generally don't have any interest in taking advantage of you. Now down here in this culture, unfortunately, that does exist. So when you're placing that burden on the guest, you get the staff was grumpy and downright rude, mocked at the gift shop. So the way I see it is this is a training issue, not a country issue. Some resorts, especially the lower tier resorts, just don't get how to serve customers in the right way. They cut corners on service, they have a bad staff culture, and for me, the Royalton is the tip of the spear. Nickelodeon wasn't rated very well either, Catalonia I mentioned, and all of the reuse, which ironically is where the young lady went missing from, Sudiksha Kananki. But that bad service reflects poorly on an area, the entirety of Punta Cana, and the call to action is for them to get better. On the mid to higher end resort, I've stayed at Palladium, Barceló, Hyatt, Secrets, TRS, all of these, they're excellent. So I wouldn't let the 11% negative review thing deter you from traveling to Punta Cana, traveling to Dominican Republic. I would understand where you're gonna have the bad experiences and where you're gonna have the good experiences. And again, might require you to spend a little bit more money, but to me, look, we live this one life. Enjoy it to the best of your ability, to the best of your economic capacity. Do the best for yourself. Don't settle for a low-cost resort. You'll get low-cost outcomes. But here is maybe a better way to enjoy Punta Cana. Don't even go to the all-inclusive resorts. In fact, don't even go to an Airbnb. Instead, why don't you do this? Consider buying. Punta Cana has a lot of inventory that you can purchase pre-construction or even that's completed. And the prices, while are going up over time for sure, are still nothing in comparison to many prices in the US, especially for near beach or beachfront property. But what you could do is buy a property, potentially rent it out if you can when you're not here, stay in it when you are here, and have your own amazing experience. Punta Cana is very safe. Punta Cana is very easy to get around. There's tons of restaurants and things to do without staying on an all-inclusive, even though the all-inclusives will try to convince you that if you leave the all-inclusive, it's dangerous. They want you to pay them to leave the all-inclusive and go on an excursion. You're seeing already about 10-15% less people staying at resorts than they are off-resort in their own property or an Airbnb. So consider buying, consider getting off property, consider having your own experience. Now, I would advise you, because there's a lot of property coming online, if you can't afford to make payments or can't afford to buy the property unless you get Airbnb guests, maybe not the best investment for you. But if you're saying, no, you know what? Hey, I'd rather put money into something I own than a vacation club or something like that, then for sure, give it a ride. Check out Punta Cana for buying, because I believe and see the equity increasing over time. That's what's happened over the last 10 to 15 years already. If you need help with a realtor, down below, you can click a link and get connected to one that I trust. And if you want to invest where I'm investing with Boardwalk Developments, there's a link for them as well. You can click that link and they'll get in touch with you. Now, for those of you that are considering moving here to Punta Cana, be sure to check out my newsletter. I share tons of information about life here, the economics, real estate, you name it. And if you want to get on a one-on-one call, you can do that too. All the links are below in the description. If you want an idea of what life is like here in Punta Cana, I put this video right here for you. You can click on it and take a look at the type of lifestyle that I'm living here and see if it's something that you think you would enjoy as well.